JYD leaving here his decision or Vince's?
I think it was mutual. Dog felt that he had done everything that he was going to do. He had put on a lot of weight. Dog wanted to kind of go away and get in shape as well. But Vince thought that, they had done what they could do, and Dog kind of felt the same way. He thought, well, maybe if I go back down south and I go to Jim Crockett, we can renew what they used to have, when he was in Mid-South with Bill Watts. Dog did great in New York, and he was a big star, but it was at that time just not working. He had slowed down a lot and was not in the best shape, and he was unhappy. So let him leave.
Down to 4 tag teams here. We've got the Conquistadors still tagging with Demolition. On the other side, it's the British Bulldogs and the Powers of Pain. Talk to me a little bit about Don Muraco. We haven't talked about him a ton here on the show. The original Rock. He's been around the company a long time. Why is he out here?
Don wanted rest. Don wanted out of the business. Best of my recollection during this time. I'll never forget the first time that I did Brother Love and Vince saying to Muraco, "God damn it, pal, I had this gimmick for you." I'm thinking, wait a minute, it's my gimmick. So Don left shortly after. He was just tired. He was tired of beating up his body, tired of being up and down the road, wanted to go back to Hawaii. So that's what he did. And Vince left the door open for him anytime he wanted to come back.
So, we should also mention some more notes here from the Torch. The Blue Blazer went into the WWF with high expectations, both by himself and from the quote unquote public. When the big guys come in, Titan told him not to use any or most of his flashy moves, and he was a little dejected. For some reason, the Whiff decided early that the Blue Blazer would not get over, or at least he wasn't part of the future plans. Now the Blazer is cleanly submitting on national events. He must have done something wrong somewhere, and I don't know if it's his fault, but any future stardom in the WWF for Owen Hart is not under a Blue Blazer mask. And that's Wade Keller's opinion. What say you?
Well, Owen came in, and first thing that happened, he was injured and was off for a while. So we did a start and stop with the Blue Blazer. That it really just wasn't getting over. There was a hesitation in his step. And I think that when the mask was put on Owen Hart, you took away, I don't know, the young Owen Hart at that time that everybody was raving about was this young kid that was stealing the show in Germany and Japan, and people, there was just something about him. You wanted to help him. You put the mask on him, and all of a sudden, I think it took away his personality. That's my opinion. But he got hurt and was working about a half step behind. That didn't help things either. So we wanted him to take some time, go away, and come back as Owen Hart.
He got hurt on this pay-per-view too. He took a leapfrog spot here against Valentine, and
Yep.
Valentine's head hits Owen in the testicles. And the next morning, one of them is swollen up to the size of a softball. He's going to be out a month with, elephantitis of the balls here. Surely you guys aren't mad at that. I mean, obviously, you know, nobody wants to get the rep of being injury prone, but when a dude's nut is the size of a softball, hey, go take care of that.
Exactly. And he certainly couldn't work, and it wasn't his fault. It was just a freak accident that took place in the middle of the match. So but still, you got to start and stop. And that didn't help the Blue Blazer character at all.
Hey, let's face it, after a night out with drinks, we don't bounce back like we used to the next day. And that's why we all wind up making a choice. We can either have a great night or have a great next day. That is until we found pre-alcohol. I'm talking about Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was in fact invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and then you'll feel your best tomorrow. And every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice a difference the next day. Even after a night out, hanging out with my friends, and maybe having one too many, I can confidently plan on recording bright and early the next morning with Bruce without worry. And I keep hearing about pre-alcohol, and I wondered what it was actually like. And now that I've tried it, I get why everybody is so fired up about it. And with the GMO technology, Z-Biotics is continuing to invent probiotics that will help you fight those everyday challenges of modern day living. Go right now to zbiotics.com/wrestle to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Wrestle at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/wrestle and use the code WRESTLE at checkout for 15% off.
Plus, I just was never a big fan of the Blue Blazer. I just thought Owen Hart had more cachet, and Vince didn't want to bring him in as a Hart because he already had the Hart Foundation.
I do want to mention earlier in this match, when we had Arn and Tully in here, this is their Titan pay-per-view debut. I think most people think about them in their SummerSlam match, but that was 89. This is 88. Well, what can you remember about the way those guys were talking about working here versus working for Jim Crockett Promotions, especially when it came to these big events with the big production budgets?
I think they were blown away because it was a lot different than where they had come from. They were also just looking at it as, here's another opportunity to work and make more money. The end of the day, all the shit happened and they left, but it was at this time, this was their opportunity to come in and make a splash, make some money. And it was, I get from their own mouths, it was a big difference, the production value and the production, everything that went into our shows. You got to remember back in the day for Crockett or Bill Watts or anybody like that to have catering and have anything for you when you spend all day at a building, that shit was unheard of. That didn't happen. You came up to New York, you came to Titan, and there's these big spreads backstage to feed everybody, and you're working in nice buildings. It's a big change. It's a big difference.
No doubt about it. I do want to mention, we talked about Don Muraco a minute ago. He was allegedly supposed to be in the very first match on Beefcake's team. But when he winds up leaving the company shortly before, he's replaced by Jim Brunzell. So that explains why Jim Brunzell was in there.
Yeah. Well, Donnie, by that point, I'm sure was probably on a beach in Waikiki. I don't think he had much care in the world. Shaka bra.
How much do you think steroids hindered his career?
I think that the guys early on that used them, there were those that did it and cycled it and did it with a doctor. I don't know. I think that Muraco was one of those guys that just, first of all, he was a big guy just in general, but I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if Donnie was hurting a lot and just felt like he was breaking down, wanted to get away, which a lot of guys do. You'd have to ask him on that one.
See Demolition here working over the powers of pain. Warlord on the business end of Axe and Smash. Chat me up here about Brett and Sean. I believe this is the only pay-per-view where those guys were on the same team. And we're pretty early into the Rockers' tenure here with the company. Hart Foundation's been around a few years at this point. At this point, what's the Brett and Sean relationship like?
As far as I know, they're friends. They're hanging out together in the bars and having drinks together and things like that. I don't know if they're traveling together to that extent, but they were friendly. There was no heat or anything that would draw attention that people might say, oh my God, there's something there. It was nothing. There were just two guys in their spot in the car doing what they got to do.
How would you categorize the relationship between the Bulldogs and the Rougeaus here? The whole incident was about 2 months prior to this. The incident, by the way, if you haven't listened to everything in the archives, which you should, over at somethingtowrestle.com, Jacques Rougeau allegedly, quote unquote, sucker punched Dynamite Kid with a roll of quarters. And, he did this after what most would agree was seemingly endless abuse, from Dynamite. Chat me up here. 2 months later, how would you categorize the relationship?
Business, and strictly business. There was no friendliness or anything there. It was a business relationship, and that was it. They were going to do what they had to do and move on. And of course, here you saw Mr. Fuji pull the rope down so that Barry Darsow would take a nasty bump out. But I loved how they asked for a timeout, because my God, there are no timeouts in professional wrestling.
So there you go. Fuji trying to defend his actions to Axe, not liking it. And he attacks Axe once with a cane, twice with a cane, now 3 times. Little shove from Axe, turns his back and wham, nails him with the cane.
And Fuji will swing that damn cane too there, by God. He wasn't afraid to lay him in. And people look at Mr. Fuji in this time and go, oh my God, how did he ever do anything? Man, Fuji used to move and fly. Fuji was one of those original high flyers back in the day. God, what an athlete he was. And he could go, but he's one of those island boys from Hawaii that, he could definitely go.
So now the Powers of Pain are going to pick up Fuji, dust him off.
Oh, poor Mr. Fuji.
And of course the announcers are putting over that, hey, there's got to be something going on here. And Wade Keller, would even say that this was well done. He really enjoyed this. He says, the arena fans didn't know that Fuji was supposed to be the heel and cheered a bit. The pay-per-view viewers knew because the announcer set it up beautifully. Demolition then ran back to the ring and cleared the ring of the Powers. And this was a great angle that came out of nowhere. And, yeah.
Well, it was the double turn. It was taking Fuji and just moving Fuji. They felt that the Powers of Pain needed a new mouthpiece, and they needed a mouthpiece that was going to give them heat. We just had guys in the wrong roles, with the Powers of Pain being the baby faces. The audience wasn't buying it, and Demolition being the heels. They had been there so long at that point. The audience respected them and liked them. They looked cool. So the Powers of Pain coming in, they were Demolition ripoffs. Now put him with Mr. Fuji and you've got a reason to boo him.
So briefly, the Baron was with the Powers of Pain, and now Fuji. Of course, the Baron is done here. Here comes Demolition to set up their feud with the Powers of Pain. Why was the Baron out, and why was Fuji in?
The Baron was out because it was just really not working. They weren't getting the kind of reaction we were looking for, but also Jim Raschke, Baron von Raschke, had not been on the road, especially this way, in a long time. And Raschke was not happy on the road, and he wanted to get off. He was happy doing TVs and pay-per-views and things like that, but they needed the whole package to be out on the road for house shows. And he wasn't able to do that.
So just to catch you up at home, we're 1 hour, 9 minutes and 6 seconds, 7 seconds, 8 seconds, just making sure you're on track with us. And Demolition now, baby faces. And you know what? That makes sense because they had a cool look. You know, fans love the face paint. They love the leather stuff. They had badass music. Made sense to me. Even when I was a kid, I loved the Demolition action figures. Came with little masks and whatnot.
You got the little removable masks and everything that were.
It wasn't until I was older that I realized, wait a minute, these guys were sex freaks.
Oh, hell. And how old was it when you said that? About 16?
Probably around the same time I saw Pulp Fiction.
They never wore ball gags.
Well, but they had a guy with all leather and, you know, the gimp with the zipper mask. And I was like, oh God, that's Demolition. This whole time I knew nothing about this.
So you can only imagine what Demolition was doing in their basement.
No, now that I'm an adult, I understand that these guys in real life were a couple of lamos. They didn't have anybody chained up and dripping wax. They were drinking beer and wearing Hawaiian shirts.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, I was just gonna say that's like Bruce Prichard's standard fare.
I'm like, okay.
Hey, you shit talking, drinking beer in Hawaiian shirts. Hey,
that's fucked up. Dude. Motherfuckers.
Some interesting little fun facts about, this show. Bad News Brown is probably the worst Survivor Series partner in history. He walked out on his teams in consecutive years.
Bastard.
So he just eliminated himself by count out back to back. Is that old school Bad News not wanting to do a job?
No, that was his character. He was a loner. That he would just walk out on people. He was a shitty partner. And that was to establish his character.
Look how different this looks. So we've got Sean Mooney here doing a promo in the back with Bad News Brown, and look at the corners, the bottom left and the bottom right. What's the technology you guys used for this? Because there is definitely a different glow around the guys. It looks way different than today.
It's Ultimat. It was the premier way to do the green screen, but ours was a blue screen and it was called Ultimat. It was the best of the best. And it was something that we would take on the road. People were very fearful of taking it on the road because you couldn't control the lighting as well. Ultimat and all that stuff is something, if you've got perfect lighting in a television studio, it still can be iffy. And as you can see the edges and different things here, but it still looked pretty damn good for what it was. And especially being on the road, being able to pull this shit off.
If you'd like to see it today, it's called Ultimat and it's spelled ULTIMATTE. It's at blackmagicdesign.com. They have, Ultimat 12 where you can take a look at this and sort of see what it looks like now. I think you'll be pretty intrigued to see what it looks like today.
Yeah, it was beautiful technology, and it enabled us to put guys wherever the hell we wanted to put them, anywhere in the world at any given time, and made for pretty shit. And here we just got to establish, Bad News Brown is a loner and he doesn't like partners. He doesn't like anybody.
Ultimat 12 is 10 grand. What do you think, you guys were paying for Ultimat back then?
Oh my God. I bet you we spent over $100,000 in the studio and for the stuff that we were bringing on the road back in the day.
$100,000.
Well, we had to have them for the studios, but you got to understand, we did damn near the whole studio where we could put in Ultimat. Then we had other that were on the road that we had to set up. And so each one of those is a different setup. And then you've got to have the computer and everything that goes with it to make it work.
So let's hit some other news and notes here. I guess more of an interesting note. The Ultimate Warrior is going to join Andre the Giant from the prior year as being the only sole survivors so far. We're only 2 years in. Danny Davis is going to break Boris Zukhov's record on this show for the quickest elimination in Survivor Series history. Last year, Boris went down in 1 minute and 42 seconds. Here, Danny Davis was 1 minute and 13 seconds.
Well, and here Mr. Fuji cuts one of the greatest damn promos you ever wanted to hear. Can't understand a word that he says. But I take my demolition, my power of pain. Which he didn't know their names.
Warlord, chat me up here. The two-tone hair. One patch is one color, another patch is another color. Can you imagine seeing that motherfucker walk through an airport?
Well, imagine if he had hair indoor bald, and could you imagine that some bitch coming through an airport? Add that. Yes, that's a scary individual, but he usually wore a little do-rag to cover all that up, or a baseball cap in public,
if you will. Demolition, you will listen. I mean, these old school this is so 80s wrestling, is it not?
Fucking A, it is.
We make a mean face at the camera. Ah. And then the baby faces at the time, like Marty Jannetty promos at this time, where he's just clapping and he's just excited and shrugging his shoulders. We're rocking, we're rolling. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? But
they're rocking and they're rolling, man.
It's 80s wrestling, man. All right. So here we go. We're getting ready for our next match. We got Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Jake the Snake on the big screen here. I want to mention, there was another change here as well. We talked about JYD leaving. He was originally announced as a member of Jake Roberts' team. And, of course that's not going to happen. He leaves the company the month before. Initially, he was going to be replaced by B. Brian Blair, but then Blair winds up leaving the company in early November, reportedly after disagreeing with a plan for a proposed heel turn. So Scott Casey winds up replacing Brian Blair. I'm sure we're going to talk about Scott Casey here in a minute, but it does, when you just run through the results, you're like, who, why, for what? Chat me up here. What happened with B. Brian Blair?
Blair just left. He was unhappy. And look, I don't know. I've heard that story about wanting to turn the Bees heel. I'd never heard that. And I didn't hear that at the time. I just heard that Brian was unhappy with the way they were being used and wanted more. And it was explained to Brian, here's your position in the company, and that's what we have for you right now. So maybe turning heel might have been discussed at some point. From my vantage point, I'd never heard that. And Blair left. He chose to move on and try something else, and left his partner, Jim Brunzell, there.
So if you didn't hear that he was leaving because he didn't like the heel turn, what was the reason you were given as to why he was leaving?
That he just didn't like what they were doing right now, and he felt they weren't doing enough. That was it. I mean, that he just wanted to do more, and that I guess Vince or Pat told him that there isn't any more for you right now.
So Scott Casey,
Cowboy Scott Casey.
Why?
At this point, I think that they got to a point where they had all these guys that had left, and it was all pretty much all around the same time. And so Vince got in one of those moods of, if you don't want to be here and you want to leave, go take your release, go. I don't want unhappy people around me. And that was probably some of the contributing factors to Blair, JYD, Muraco, and a lot of those guys said, you know what? They're not doing anything with me. I want to move on. Let's move on. Timing wise, when you get stuck, you got to use what you got. Scott Casey was there. Terry Taylor's in a damn Survivor Series match. That's how bad it was.
Well, I mean, Terry would tell you he was over here.
Sure he would.
You don't think Terry would say he was over?
I think that Only time that Terry's been over in his career is when he was with the WWF as the Red Rooster. So yeah, he was over more here than he ever was anywhere else.
Well, and you know, you're saying that to sort of shit on him, but the reality
I'm really not.
It's
I'm
what
not
people still talk about. It's what people still talk about.
No, and see, that's where in no way was I saying that to shit on him. I was saying that to point out a fact that this was probably the most over he ever was in his career. And that's just a fact. Snakes and American flags. Holy cow.
Did you ever think you would wind up selling inflatable snakes? When you first got in the wrestling business, people are selling pictures and posters and programs, and eventually they started selling t-shirts and hats. Fast forward. Goddamn, pal. Can we get some inflatable snakes? Let's put them around kids. Can we get the kids to buy snakes? How do we get kids? Let's sell them ice cream too.
Yeah, exactly. Now you can see with this one, you see the glow around Coco Beware, that blue Ultimate glow and the glow Randy's. It
feels like they're right out of the movie Last Dragon, and they've got the glow. Show enough.
Ooh. And Frankie's ready to fly like the Birdman.
Jimmy Hart. And then my phone rang. It was opportunity. And then it was Hulkster on the other end. And then the next day my phone rang, and wouldn't you know it, it was like a magic phone. It was Hercules Hernandez. And then about a few days after that, my phone rang. It was Coco Beware. It was more opportunity. And then my phone rang. Well, what was up with his Hall of Fame speech? Is that the worst Hall of Fame speech in the history of Hall of Fame speeches?
No, but it was one of the longest. That's for damn sure. If I ever heard one. Well, let me tell you something, brother. You take a look at the python's 24 inches, and I don't know what the fuck.
And he's got the Hercules Hernandez chain around his neck. Interesting look for the Hulkster.
Absolutely. The tannest man in the world. But it's not just, it's a perfect tan. That's what pisses me off.
How much do you think Hogan was spending in disposable razors at this point?
A lot, man. He had the one with the shoehorn, the long shoehorn, and the razor tape to that so that he can get his back and get the hard to reach places. And he tried lasering later on, but he said that just took too long. So it's easier just to shave.
That's a silly thing, but we never really talk about it. But I mean, this guy's 6'4" or taller at the time, over 300 pounds. And he's got to not only be tan and shiny, but he's got to be essentially hairless. That's gotta take a lot of time.
Yeah. Yes. He was a metrosexual long before there were metrosexuals.
I'm pretty sure, I'm not saying this to be funny, he would have to spend more time tanning and shaving and oiling than he would actually in the match.
And training.
Oh, I'm not talking about, of course that. I'm just saying.
But see, that's part of his training to him.
Sure.
All that stuff.
So the shaving is part of training?
Yeah, it is. Make sure you see your muscles the right way. There he is, folks. Cowboy Scott Casey coming to the ring. San Antonio and Austin, Texas finest. Followed by Ho!
Meanwhile, Hacksaw's like, nope, not shaving, not tanning. Got this big flag and this board. Good to go. Hey, we've never really talked about it, but it's not like, I would assume you guys are carrying that flag for him on the trucks, right?
Yes.
And the 2x4, it's on the trucks, or are y'all just going to a Home Depot in every town?
No, usually he would just scurry around the building and try and find a 2x4 until they started carrying them.
He would just hope there was one laying around back.
Yes. Yes. For the longest time. And I'm serious. The longest time he would just go around buildings and look for a 2x4.
That actually sounds more entertaining than his matches.
Ho!
What the fuck are y'all doing to him?
To who?
Harley
He's
Race.
got a sandwich. He's got the sandwich shop.
Which is
the
a
King
shirt.
Sandwich shop.
And how about Mr. Perfect here? Not wearing a singlet, just regular tights, tucking the t-shirt in, and it's just a Survivor Series shirt. That's not a good Survivor Series shirt either. But the good shirts are over BrucePrichard.com, including Race's Sandwich Shop, which is tremendous.
You can, and right now through Monday for this whole Black Friday weekend, you save 20% by going to BrucePrichard.com. No coupon code needed or anything like that on every one of our designs. And we got over 100 designs to choose from at BrucePrichard.com.
And here comes the biggest star of them all, Andre the Giant. You know, Andre wasn't moving around the best in the world, but he's still moving around here.
He was, and it was funny. Somebody sent me a Brother Love segment I did with Andre, to where Andre and I had worked out the finish of what was going to be said, and I was going to finish it. But Andre decided when he was out there that he wanted to finish it. And I went to pull the microphone away from Andre, and he snatched my arm, and you can see the utter fear in my face, which was 100% shoot of like, did I just upcut the boss? Did I fuck up? And he took it home and did his thing. And I was like thankful that he didn't make me shit my white pants.
I do want to mention, cause we've covered it before, on our way to WrestleMania 4 in early 88. I believe it was taped in March of 88. Hogan beat Harley Race, and this was on a Saturday night's main event. And this is the spot where they did the table bump, and Harley was injured on that deal. And now he's back here, but he doesn't look nearly the same. He winds up leaving in early 89. And he'd coming back here from a hernia surgery. Chat me up about Harley Race.
Double tough son of a bitch. And he had gone in, and it was, oh man, I forget what the surgery is, but they removed, a good part of his colon. And Harley was in rough shape, but at the same time, he's a tough old bastard, and he wasn't about to, not show up. He wanted to continue to go. So we, put him out, put him back, and let him work for a little while until Harley just felt that he couldn't do it anymore, and or didn't want to do it anymore. The crazy thing, just looking at this match, man, is you look at the legitimate, scary, tough guys from Rick Rude, Harley Race, Andre the Giant, and Kurt was tough son of a bitch, but also on the other side, Ken Patera and Duggan. And those are some guys that you would not want to meet anywhere. That just double tough son of a bitch, all of them. I'll throw Bravo in there too. Bravo was a tough guy. Just very quiet.
All right, listen up, guys. Do you want your grooming routine to be a one and done deal? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and your private parts are over, thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6. I'm talking about the Beard and Balls Bundle, featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker, and another one for the boys downstairs. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you use our code STW at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping whenever you use the code STW at manscaped.com. For the premium grooming experience, trust Manscaped. Let me just go ahead and tell you right now, your new best friend for your balls, it's the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Say goodbye to endless passes. This trimmer gets it right the first time, cutting through the bushiest of bushes effortlessly, while still being gentle on your skin and all your delicate parts. There's also 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads, so you can choose. Do you want a precise trim and a smooth finish? Here we go. Did I mention it's also waterproof? You can trim in the shower and avoid making a mess everywhere. That's perfect for us guys who like a little efficiency in our life. What about the Beard Hedger? If you're going for neat stubble, you can do that too. What about a full-on lumberjack look? Well, this trimmer can cover you there too. We're talking a titanium-coated stainless steel T-blade in 20 different length options,
so you can achieve any style you want just with the twist of the zoom wheel. And just like the lawnmower, the beard hedger is also waterproof, so you can handle your beard grooming right in the sink or the shower without worrying about damage. And with up to 60 minutes of runtime and an LED charge indicator, you'll never be caught mid-trim with a dead battery. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra ensures you're always looking your best below the waist, while the beard hedger takes care of everything above. Join the 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped for all of their grooming needs and get the beard and balls bundle today. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code STW at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping with the code STW at manscaped.com. No more juggling multiple tools or dealing with subpar results. Just efficient, effective grooming wherever you need it.
Frenchie Martin, guy we haven't talked about a ton here on the show.
Frenchie was from Montreal, so he had been up there and worked quite a bit as Pierre Martel, as Rick Martel's brother. He worked a lot as Martel's brother, and he did a lot of business in Puerto Rico and Japan. But Frenchie Martin was someone who was able to do the commentary for Montreal, do the color commentary. He had a little segment there, kind of like a Piper's Pit. I think it was Frenchie's paint shop, some crazy shit like that. But a really good guy, and Vince had a soft spot for him and kept him on as a manager with the French Canadian guys. And he thought that everyone had heat with Montreal, when the only people that had heat with Montreal are people from Montreal and Toronto. And Harley and Scott Casey. And Scott Casey, man, here's a guy who had spent the majority of his career, as far as I know, in Texas.
Right.
And he had done some big business in San Antonio with Southwest Championship Wrestling. He had done some okay business with us in Houston, but I don't know where else Scott had ever been. But he was a top guy for Southwest Championship Wrestling, Joe Blanchard's promotion in San Antonio, and came up right about the time that I came up to New York, and was working kind of as a journeyman in the middle underneath, getting guys over.
Yeah, he comes up in 87. And, as you said, he was an enhancement talent, for TV matches, and other guys like that though were Sam Houston or Lanny Poffo or whoever. So, even though he was putting guys over, he was at that Sam Houston, Lanny Poffo level at that era. He winds up leaving sometime in 90. Why didn't he have a longer run here in the WWF? Just 3 years.
I think Scott was in the twilight of his career at that point, and this was Scott's last run. There wasn't a whole lot for him to do beyond this. It just wasn't. He didn't click with our audience, and it wasn't something that people were clamoring to see a lot of Scott Casey. Hell of a hand, really good at getting people over, but that's kind of where it ended.
The rumor and innuendo is that he helped break Booker T in. He's your bud. What do you remember about his influence on Book?
He might have helped a little bit with Booker. I know Booker trained with Ivan Putski and the guys there that had a school in Houston for a little while. I don't know if Scott was one of those trainers, but I do know that Scott was one of the early influences on Booker when Booker first started getting out, working house shows. Booker, learned probably more once he got out of training school and got out in working in front of people. That's where you really learn.
Mr. Perfect here is being referred to as, Kurt Hennig. And eventually in 1989, he's just going to be Mr. Perfect. And that's when the look changes a little bit, but we're still very much in the infancy of Kurt's WWF run here. Although we started earlier in the year, he doesn't actually debut on TV until September. And in October, we started to see these vignettes air. When did you guys know, hey man, we got something here?
I think we knew we had something there before he ever came in. Kurt was the AWA World Heavyweight Champion, and he was somebody that we'd had our eye on for a little while. Obviously, Pat Patterson was friends with Kurt and with Larry, his father. From the Minneapolis area, everybody knew Kurt, and Kurt felt an obligation for a long time. He was very loyal to Vern. But when the money just wasn't coming in, he figured, well, I can either be the champion and be loyal, or I can go to New York and I can make money. So he came in, and it took a little while to convince him to come in. But when he did, when he got here, he was just so freaking good. But we felt from day one that he was a top guy and that he would be in the main event.
Look at the Hall of Famers that you've got in here. Andre, Kurt, Hacksaw, Ravishing Rick Rude, Tito. I mean, it's just on and on and on, the talent that's in the ring right now. And that's before you even get to former NWA world champion Harley Race. And then, well, Scott Casey.
Oh yeah. And Harley Race was the first person ever to suplex indoor slam Andre the Giant when he got to that legendary status. Now, Andre took a lot of slams, a lot of shit early on in his career. But once he became that attraction of Andre the Giant and didn't take a lot of slams from anybody, Harley slammed him in the in the Summit in Houston, Texas. There's actually video of that somewhere out there. Ravishing Rick Rude with his Rude Awakener, eliminating the world's strongest man. Vince always liked that too. He always liked the moniker of the world's strongest man. So Kenny was the world's strongest man for a while as well. Oh, hello, Scott. See, but Scott Casey, you get Casey in the ring with a Harley Race and Andre, and they worked nice and well together.
What was Harley like here when he knows he's sort of in the twilight? You know, he's years past his best years. He's obviously lost a lot of size after having the hernia surgery, you know, after the match with Hogan in March.
Well, I think that the best way you can do is that old George Jones song, still doing time in a honky tonk prison. So he was still doing time in a WWF prison and just going through it and still just kind of going through the motions. And, you know, if Harley hadn't had the health problems that he has had preventing him from being in the ring, I believe Harley's one of those guys that if he could, he would be in the ring today.
It's just, you know, it makes me wonder, a guy who had such a reputation for being a badass, and he was a world champion and, you know, a major draw everywhere he went. And now he's sort of lost in the shuffle. He physically doesn't look or feel like he used to. And these guys who he used to sort of be the top guy, you know, his peers had to look and handle him a certain way. And now maybe some of them might not be treating him the same way, or he may just get in his own head. You know, you hear about athletes who lose a step and just the effect it has on their psyche. I wonder how that affects a guy like Harley in wrestling.
Well, you know what? I think that as far as how the rest of the talent treated him, the rest of the talent still treated him as if he were, you know, the king, Harley Race, the man, and the toughest son of a bitch in the locker room. That's still, I believe, how people treated him, with that kind of respect. But I do think you got something there on the psyche of Harley. I think Harley kind of looked at himself and had to ask himself the question inside, can I still do the shit I used to do? And when he gets out there and tries to do it and is unable to, then it's like, well, fuck. That starts fucking with your head big time. It sucks when you go to jump on the apron of the ring and you can't, and you just miss it. And that's like, for me, an old fart just trying to sit on the side Sometimes I used to be able to just jump right up there and it's fine. And now I have to take that extra step. So for a guy that has made his whole career in the ring wrestling, yeah. Very kabuki-ish. Devastating Dino Bravo punches to Tito Santana.
Let's talk about something else that's happening in the pay-per-view world. Just a couple of weeks before Survivor Series 1988, there is a boxing match on pay-per-view. It's Sugar Ray Leonard taking on, let's screw this name up, Donnie Lamond. Yeah, there you go. For the WBC Light Heavyweight Championship, as well as the newly created Super Middleweight Championship. Of course, here's a spoiler for you. Sugar Ray won TKO in the 9th round. But the reason I'm mentioning this is it was promoted like crazy on WWF TV, which feels interesting to me because pay-per-view is still very much in its infancy. It feels like Vince may have wanted to be more mindful of trying to plug or promote another pay-per-view so close to the Survivor Series. But then you realize, wait a minute, Vince is helping promote this thing. And as a result, the WWF wound up losing, according to the Torch, $4.5 million on the investment because he didn't have guarantees from the cable companies. The fight itself grossed $9 million, but Vince wound up losing his shirt here, and we didn't see him try to promote boxing again. Chat me up about why in the hell this made sense for Vince.
Well, I don't know where Wade got those numbers as far as losing, but that would mean that he would have had to put that much money into the promotion. Vince co-promoted it with Sugar Ray's group and Coors and what have you, but they had come to us for help in the pay-per-view arena because boxing had not really hit it big in the pay-per-view arena yet. WWF was the king of pay-per-view at the time, so they wanted Vince's expertise. So they came in, they paid us to promote. They bought spots on our show and paid us to promote. So that's how it all happened. And it was a relationship with Sugar Ray Leonard that made it all happen. And I don't know that we lost a single penny on that. If anything, we made because they were using us to promote the thing.
I just said he didn't promote boxing again, completely forgetting that he did.
Oh yeah.
It was another Sugar Ray in 1997. But when you said, oh, he co-promoted it with Sugar Ray, I'm like, wait a minute. He fought Camacho sometime in the 90s. Chat me up. What was it about the Sugar Ray Leonard, Vince McMahon relationship that worked? Because he did it not once, but twice, but not with other boxers, just with Sugar Ray. So there was some sort of connection.
Well, Sugar Ray was, he was one of the first fighter promoters. Okay. Now you've got, Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya, who we also worked with in later years. Of course, Floyd Mayweather promotes his own stuff, but Sugar Ray was one of the first, and he understood Vince. He was a big fan. He understood the showmanship. He understood Hollywood. He understood selling. So it was a good partnership. He was a great guy and a very good businessman. That's all he looked at was the bottom line, man. Sugar Ray was all about the bottom line. But boxing was not our gig.
Yeah. Football was more your speed.
Yeah, definitely. In bodybuilding.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
This building here is a big part of WWF history. Richfield Coliseum winds up closing in 1994 and is demolished in 1999. But Richfield Coliseum was a big part of a lot of early big WWF moments. Why Richfield?
The gentleman that was general manager of the Richfield Coliseum had previously been the general manager of either New Haven or Hartford Coliseum, a friend of ours that gave us great deals. He was from the home state, Connecticut, had been friends with Vince and Linda since day one. They'd always done really good business together. So when he took over this building, he wanted to have a big spotlight event in it and have people. It was on the outskirts of Cleveland, and people looked at it like, why do they have a building way out there? But he wanted to put events on that people would drive and come out to it. It was no different than the Superdome or the Pontiac Silverdome. I beg your pardon. Pontiac outside of Detroit. People said, nobody's going to go out there. If you put the right attractions, they will. So he had come to us and said, hey, I've got the building. I'll make it worth your while, and gave us a great deal on the building to come down. And that's why we did it. And 2 years in a row, had a great spot, great partner. They did a lot of promotion for us. So why not? Drew both times.
Let's talk about Thanksgiving, because today is Thanksgiving. Hey, did you cook a turkey today?
Fried it.
That's right. I forgot you're doing the indoor fryer gimmick, but you do it outside, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but it is an indoor fryer. You still just set up a folding table on the back porch and do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With my butterball fryer.
It's in the Torch. Vince McMahon is holding a Thanksgiving party for all the wrestlers and their families. I'm not sure if it's before or after the Survivor Series, though. He is paying to fly in everyone's wife and kids. Hopefully there won't be turkey dinner before Survivor Series. Well, there may be some pretty bad scenes in and around the wrestling ring. On that note, you be sure to have a great Thanksgiving. More news in 2 weeks. Very nice of Wade to wish us a happy Thanksgiving. Chat me up though. Flying in the wives and children for a Thanksgiving feast. Is that right?
Well, there was no party, and he did tell people if they want to bring in their families that we would pay for it, because it was the second year in a row. And that was one of the things guys bitched about. I don't get to see my family. It's okay. We'll bring them with you. But it was for catering beforehand and have them come. They may have had a little party in the building for the families separate from us, but there wasn't this big party for everybody. Our party, we didn't have Christmas party until usually April or May the following year, which was a WrestleMania and a Christmas party together. But this was just during the time Vince wanted the boys to feel better about it. So bring your family, bring your loved ones, and they're welcome.
Who'd you bring?
I brought all my friends.
So you were just by yourself?
Yep. And we were out of there on this night. We flew home on a charter plane. So I actually got back to Connecticut that night. And then we had our big Thanksgiving day on Friday.
Who is we?
Well, the people from the office, because those of us that were on the road, we didn't get Thanksgiving. So when we got home, that's when we had Thanksgiving. And I forget who had it. I don't know if it was Steve Taylor or who had the big Thanksgiving that year. Might have been Pat. We just have a big Thanksgiving to do with all the people that don't have family, that are only up there for the WWF. And in later years, from like the mid 90s until I left, it was my house that always hosted the people with no family Thanksgiving and Christmas. Always had a Christmas Eve party and a Thanksgiving party.
Steve Taylor works for Madison Square Garden now, right?
Correct.
What's he do there?
He runs the production side for non-athletic shows. So for the concerts and everything that comes in that's not a basketball,
I got you,
hockey game like that. Yeah. Steve was one of my best buds all the way through my time at WWE. Great guy. We had a lot of fun together.
He left before you though, right?
No, he left after me. No, wait a minute. He might have left before me.
I thought he left in like 05.
He might have.
What's it like to get old?
It sucks, Conrad.
Okay. I was just asking.
It sucks. You forget stuff. You're old.
Peter don't work. Peter don't work.
Peter don't work. Paul don't work. Mary won't work.
Oh, that's great.
She's a whore.
Listen to you.
What?
Using that kind of language here. This is a fine family program. Can't you tell from Frenchie Martin and Ravishing Rick Rude and Jake the Snake? By the way, did you see Jake the Snake was on Joe Rogan's podcast this week?
I saw that, but I haven't heard it yet.
Woof.
Is that a good woof?
I'll let you, I'll let you decide.
Okay. Can't wait. Can't wait.
Did you see, just before the holiday that, Vince Russo took credit for discovering Charlotte Flair?
Oh, I got a good Charlotte Flair story then if you want to talk about discovering her. How did Russo discover her?
She was in a skit when she was like 14 back in the day.
Okay. Oh, well, shit. There you go. Then he discovered her, taught her everything she knows.
Yeah. I mean, without him, that big break may not have ever happened, you know?
I remember when Rick was in TNA.
By the way, he was being sarcastic. It was a joke.
Yeah, I don't think that's funny. But Rick and I were talking about Charlotte before she was getting into the business and what he wanted her to do, what she wanted to do, so on and so forth. And we're both working at TNA. And it's like, well, I mean, just make the call. Let's get her down to the Performance Center. And of course he did. And that's a simple call for him to make. And Dixie Carter comes to me and says, "Oh my God, I just read in the dirt sheet that Rick's daughter is going to WWE." And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, why wouldn't she come here?" I said, "Where exactly would she go? We have no place to train her. We don't have any place for her to go. And Rick doesn't want to be here, much less." So yeah, Dixie Carter was very upset that we didn't snag Charlotte Flair.
Can you imagine had she went there? She would have been the one who was, in the romantic angle with AJ Styles or some shit.
Oh man, no, I couldn't have done that to her, and I wouldn't have done it to Rick. Rick and I were talking. I was head of talent relations. I said, "So when's she going to the Performance Center down there, man?" That's just real life. And back in the Richfield Coliseum, Jake the Snake Roberts is getting his ass whooped by Ravishing Rick Rude. And for those that were wondering, the handheld, the still photographer, that's the right way to describe him, at ringside is Steve Taylor, the gentleman we were just talking about.
Let's get to some notes here from the Torch. Vince can be a genius at times. The Powers of Pain weren't getting over his baby faces, and the Baron didn't help that cause either. On the other hand, Demolition had been popular for quite a while, actually ever since their feud with Strikeforce, and they've gotten a good share of cheers. The Road Warriors are hot off of this heel turn in the NWA rather. And if the real Road Warriors are getting over his heels, then Vince's Road Warriors must turn heel so they can take advantage of that same momentum. Now Vince has taken advantage of the real Warriors' momentum, and he has done a double turn. Thus, this last second decision doesn't affect future scheduled lineups, just the side of the ring Mr. Fuji stands on. And now the Powers don't have to give interviews anymore, something Demolition doesn't have a problem with. Wouldn't most promotions have just kept pushing the Powers as faces and shoved them in the fans' face? So an interesting perspective here where he's saying that Vince is not going to shove someone down her throat. He's going to pivot and make it happen. What did you think of the decision to, switch the Powers of Pain to Demolition? It certainly makes sense to have Mr. Fuji talk for him if they don't want to talk. But the insinuation that maybe the timing of this is curious because the Road Warriors just turned heel in the NWA is interesting.
Well, it was crowd reaction. When you listen to the crowd, they would not boo Demolition. They were loving Demolition, and they looked at the Powers of Pain as just cheap imitations of Demolition. So the audience had already turned them, and Vince was like, well, fuck it. The only thing keeping Demolition's heel is Fuji. Made the turn. It was simple because you didn't have to change the house shows, as he pointed out. Nice and easy fix. You can still have the same matches, still have Fuji, still have everybody. They all do it. And you don't have to change the match that much either because they were all working the same way they're going to work no matter what.
Chat me up about Jesse Ventura doing light beer commercials. Those start happening around this same time.
Big, huge deal, man. Miller Lite, less filling, tastes great. And it was all to build up to the Super Bowl reveal with Bob Uecker was the spokesman for Miller Lite as well. Then they started using Jesse, and for the very last one, they actually incorporated Vince and had him take off rubber masks to reveal that they were, I think, Bob Uecker and John Madden, I think it was. But great gig for Jesse. And it was a good gig for the WWF at the time too, because Jesse was synonymous with us. And then having Vince be a part of that at the end of it for the big payoff was wonderful for the company and good exposure.
What a big spot here. Look at everybody getting to their feet. All the heels are celebrating on the outside of the ring. Jake slides the big snake into the ring and just makes his way over to their general direction, and they scurry away. There's no chance in a big show like this with a big crowd that you don't pull the snake out and give them what they want, right?
The snake must come out.
The snake must pose.
Well, you know.
Draping him over the rope like that, quite a visual.
Yeah, exactly. And that damn poor snake there. Oof. It's amazing that a lot of these snakes didn't just simply go batshit crazy as soon as they came out of the bag. Some of them did. But for the most part, you know, just all the travel, being cooped up in a bag all the time, and just the bumping around and abuse and being thrown around, that they weren't a little angrier when they came out of that thing.
No chance we ever see something like this in 2018 with PETA and animal rights and all that, right?
God, not the way that it was handled then. No way. And we, you know, and the thing about it is that we still had to have, you know, the animal people at the shows with the dogs and the snakes and the birds and all that other crap to make sure that they were treated right. But even those conditions are suspect at best. How's JR's face doing? We haven't talked about that. That was an unfortunate accident that,
look at how big this group is here, and look at me on the left, shucking and jiving.
Look at you,
dude. It fucking really is uncanny at times.
Yes, it is.
Look at that
right now without the dashiki on or the headgear.
I'm thinking, holy shit, before I got a haircut.
Yeah, baby. $1 million man got slick in the back, shucking and jiving. That's a blue Ultimate behind them, as you can see around Slick's hair, the kind of blue popping through there. But,
Eric Rottencrotch on the right. I mean, Big Boss Man right there on the right.
It is uncanny. We have, for both of you guys, we have both of y'all here. You and Eric could be like the Twin Towers.
I know. That's what we're going to do for Halloween. We're going to do a Conradison Halloween party in 2019. I want to invite you now so you can tell me you can't come.
Okay.
And, it's going to be on Thursday night, October 31st, actual Halloween 2019 here at the Conradison.
Are you going to invite Slick too?
Nope. Not going to do that.
Well, Slick would be good because he could be the manager of the Twin Towers.
Well, I mean, I need to find a stunt Slick then.
But see, that would be the funny part is if you guys are both dressed up as Twin Towers,
we had the real
Slick is actually Slick.
That would be cool. So hypothetically, if we pull this off, can I get you to come as Brother Love?
No.
That would be tremendous.
No.
You could host us on the Brother Love show.
Let me think about it. No.
Look, here I come. Strutting that ass. By the way.
Just a jive soul, bro. A jive soul, bro. Never get nothing in the end. Oh, God, he's a good dancer. You are a good dancer, son of a bitch.
I won a dance contest in Cancun 2013. Hashtag never forget. Yeah. So how about the Haku crown, which looks like it was made in a fucking garage?
That was the Hacksaw Jim Duggan Harley Race crown.
How about the $1 Million Man green suit? I remember the green action figure $1 Million Man. I liked him better than the black suit $1 Million Man.
The green suit was my favorite. The green and the silver suits were my favorite. Never was a big fan of the black one.
Look at this cast of characters. This is so wrestling. Akeem, the Big Boss Man, the $1 Million Man, King Haku, and the fucking Red Rooster.
Yeah. Amazing, isn't it? Which one of these does not belong?
Right.
But it was the most over that Rooster ever was.
Man, I wish I had one of these Macho Man capes. Here he comes with Miss Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah, freak out. Get to the ring. Don't let anybody touch her. I'm going to have to kill you now, all right? Yeah, because I got my glasses on. It's X-ray vision, brother. Uh-huh. Yeah, nobody looking her ass either as we get in the ring. First name, Macho, last name, Man. Uh-huh, Mega Powers. Read it on my back. Yeah, I'm a Mega, he's a Power. Hillbilly Jim, I got a feeling, is still talking somewhere.
You know, what's fun is, the Macho Man being introduced here is 239 pounds. What do you think he really weighed? 190?
Oh, God, no. At this time, I bet he was every bit of 230.
Nah.
Yeah.
So, the other thing that I enjoyed on this is I've got the closed captioning on my side, and they introduced him in the closed captioning as the undisputed World Wrestling Entertainment Champion.
Oh my gosh.
Here it is. It's crashing down and it hurts inside. So he's not the champ, but he gets his own entrance and he's last. And I don't have a problem with that.
Well, why would you have a problem with that?
Biggest star in the history of the business at this point, as Tony Schiavone would say, without question.
Yes, this is true, by God. And they're trying to keep him from getting to that damn there boss man feller. And then there's Coco Ware.
So you just said no matching tights and everybody is wearing fucking yellow.
Against each other. When you're your opponent, when you are facing your opponent, you can't have the same tights as your opponent.
How about
if you're a tag team? Yes, you can have matching shit.
Coco Beware has WWF on his ass and it's blurred out. They're blurring WWF out.
Explain that. Cause yeah, you can explain it concisely and
no, I can't. And here's why I can't. We were told when we were doing Something to Wrestle for the WWE Network that once they reached that settlement in the lawsuit, and I forget exactly when, but I'm going to say it's 02, that anything they produce post 02, it can't be there. But anything prior to that, it can be there. So if they produced a documentary in 2008, see what I mean?
Yes. Okay. But this was blurred out before that.
Well, but here's my question. You've got the WWF logo in the bottom left and the banners hanging everywhere. So that logo is permissible. There had to be something in that agreement that said not the logo, but the actual letters, WWF, in like a traditional text format, a common format, not like a fancy graphic, but just the letters couldn't be used because that's what in this era, he had something looks like Macho Man has, essentially what looks like iron-on letters on the back. And so he just had iron-on WWF, which I've always found funny. Like, why would you put that on your butthole, WWF? I guess you wanted to have WWF in that ass. Hashtag Laps fan. Chat me up though. Why do you think they blurred out? It has to be that, right? Like
I would imagine so. I'm not familiar with all the legalities of it. There was a time that everything was blurred out, and then they got it changed a little bit where they had some exceptions, but this is a weird one. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. And this is a Mid-South Wrestling main event from just several years before, Terry Taylor and Hercules. Now in the main event at the Survivor Series.
Is Terry Taylor the timekeeper on this match, or is he not capable of keeping time by this point?
No, he's not able to keep time by this point.
You're going to tell me?
No, you know what? He might have been able to still keep time at this point.
Do you want to, is now the time to tell the Terry Taylor watch story?
No, I can't do that. Only at the live shows.
It's available now at brucepritchard.com. Where's Shill? Roll Tide. Hey, here we go. We're going to be setting up WrestleMania next. Of course, the next pay-per-view is going to be the Royal Rumble in January. But from there, it's going to become very, very clear. And of course, we're on our way to WrestleMania 5, where we're going to see Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man square off. And that was written about a lot in the Torch. Will Randy Savage defend his WWF title against Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 5? Who will be the heel? Is it in the best interest of the WWF to have this matchup? You know, this is by this point very clear. WrestleMania is the event, right? Like nothing,
yes.
And nothing touches WrestleMania.
No, that's the Super Bowl.
Was there ever consideration that, because this is common in wrestling, maybe we should entertain the idea of Hulk Hogan being a heel? Do you remember that being discussed at all during his WWF tenure? I just found it interesting that even back here in 88 in the Torch, he says, who will be the heel? Now we know what happened, but was anybody pitching anything differently?
No. And from time to time, I would pitch turning Hulk and would get the emphatic, absolutely not, never going to happen. He's going to be our Babe Ruth. And with merchandising and everything else that we have, Hulk Hogan can never be a heel. That was a never with Hulk.
He sort of freestyles, he being Wade Killer. Turning Hogan will do very little good. Fans are not going to boo Hogan, excluding if he attacks or rapes Elizabeth. He is America's superhero. Fans are not going to boo Savage again. Paul Orndorff was the exception, not the rule when it came to that situation. And Savage is conceivably more popular in some ways than Hulk Hogan is at this time. Turning either would not only be risky, but leave the WWF with a lot of merchandise to sell. Real American hats and t-shirts, Macho Man and Elizabeth posters and sunglasses. The only alternative is to not turn either of them. It's that simple. The scene can be set by having them get into scuffles. Randy gets jealous or offended by the liberties Hogan takes with Elizabeth and for his own self-centeredness. Savage gets upset at Elizabeth for being with Hogan so much. Hogan gets mad at Savage for overreacting. Elizabeth gets angry at both of them for being immature. That way, Elizabeth isn't aligned with either Hogan or Savage, and they can continue to headline separate cards as baby faces and draw good crowds. Now, obviously, that's not what happened, but I do think it's interesting that he's sort of freestyling. What if we didn't turn either? Now, you guys would go on to do babyface versus babyface WrestleMania at WrestleMania 12 with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Was that ever even considered for WrestleMania 5?
No, not at all. And we did babyface versus babyface with Hogan and Warrior in WrestleMania 6. So, I mean, that was a battle, you know, to get Vince to go and do that. But probably once a year, I could say, I would suggest, what if we turned Hogan? and have a story, you know, to turn in. It was an emphatic, absolutely no way, shape, or form.
Hey, I bet you've wondered, does Blue Chew actually work? If you're asking that question, we want you to know that Blue Chew's putting their money where their mouth is and giving you 1 month free. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The process is simple too. You just sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door. But the best part is, it's all online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. Blue Chew wants men rock hard. That's what they told me. That's the mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house, until every tent is pitched, until every rod is raised. Discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code WRESTLE at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com. The promo code is WRESTLE and you'll receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast.
This show we're watching gets really, really high marks. Survivor Series 1988. Wade would write, of the 2 hours and 40 minutes the card lasted, 2 hours and 4 minutes were wrestling action. According to my unofficial count, there were 224 tags over the card, and it got an overall thumbs up from almost everyone I talked to. It was their best big event of the year. The Richfield Coliseum looked to have many upper deck empty seats, and Jesse Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon did a great job in announcing the event. They kept my interest and contained a good blend of wrestling action and storyline. I think it lived up to last year's precedent. As we're winding down here, we're home stretching, 20 something minutes left. How did you compare and contrast this with the 1987 Survivor Series?
I think that the matches themselves overall were better, but it was, to me, it was just more of the same. And it was a concept deal that you kind of question, God damn, doing this every year is going to be tough. However, when you had less to do, you figure, okay, we can bite the bullet and people will enjoy the novelty of it, which they did for a long time. But I think it was a success. Yeah. 4 matches, 3-hour pay-per-view. Good God.
What do you make of the observation that there were some empty seats? 13,500 here. So it's a huge crowd. Did you guys sort of chalk that up to we've been running the area too often, or it's fucking Thanksgiving, or we just didn't have an interesting enough card, or the business is cooling down?
I don't remember any empty seats. So that may have been somebody looking up at the camera kills and things like that and seeing empty seats. I don't remember any empty seats other than for camera kills.
It would seat 20,000 for basketball, 18,000 for hockey, and you've only got 13,500 here. So there are some empty seats, but it's still successful financially.
Sure. And again, it's a full building to us. And a lot of that is going to be production kills and different shit, but that basketball and hockey don't necessarily have. But regardless, business was good. Shit, business was still good here at this time. This was during the time still you could put Randy on one card and Hulk on the other, and you're going to do really, really well. House show wise. Now, Hillbilly Jim is telling you right now about the phone call that he got.
Opportunity.
It was opportunity. And Hillbilly Jim made the most of that one phone call and that opportunity. By God, into a hell of a career. And now Conrad, the mortgage guy, with the squisher into the corner. Oh, what a clothesline.
Where are you at, Bruce?
What do you mean, where am I at?
We're not watching the same thing. Where are you at? Give everyone the time. We're watching television together.
I'm at 2:12, 26, 27, 28, 29. Nothing's changed. Are you dancing right now?
No, I'm ahead of you.
Oh, hell. All right.
Where are you at?
How much ahead of you are you from me?
Where are you now?
2:12, 45, 46, 47.
I got synced up. We're good.
Okay, then we're good.
Let's do some questions here from
go for it.
Facebook. Eric wants to know, I've always felt like the double turn with Demolition and Powers of Pain was poorly executed. Powers of Pain looked weak here when they did not help Fuji by fighting Demolition. Big nasty heels wait until Demolition has beaten up Fuji. What's up with that?
First of all, they're heels. Second of all, they were involved in a match in the ring with the Conquistadors when Demolition beat up Fuji. So they were occupied.
Ryan wants to know, why did they go from teams of 5 down to teams of 4 after the Survivor Series?
Because teams of 5 striving to survive was long and could be very boring. But you do teams of 4, you can have more matches and
no. If you're going to say teams of 5 strive to survive, you got to make something rhyme with teams of 4. So, and you said the word more, figure it out. We couldn't do teams of 5 strive to survive because it could be boring. So instead we did
teams of 4. Your mother's a whore.
Didn't expect that. Mark wants to know, what does Vince take in his coffee?
2 sweet and lows.
2 sweet and lows.
Yeah. He likes his coffee hot, black, sweet, and wet.
Tony Schiavone told me a joke this past weekend. You want to hear it?
Sure.
I like my women like I like my coffee.
Yeah.
With no pubic hair.
I like it.
I didn't see that coming.
I agree.
Oh God. Adam wants to know, why was the Coliseum video release of this Survivor Series butchered so badly? 2 of the 4 matches were nothing but highlights.
Time, just for time purposes on the video. That was during the time those tapes would only hold so much. So you had to get it under like 2.5 hours or something like that.
John wants to know, did Creative and Vince really think there was enough quality in just 4 matches?
Yes. No, we thought it was going to be the drizzling shits. That's why they did it. Yes. And I think it did, really.
Alex writes, the Red Rooster and Coco Beware were in the main event. Really? Is this a rib?
No, it's not a rib. You saw it. It's right there. It's beautiful.
In fairness,
Red Rooster got eliminated early on, and so did Coco, and we got down to brass tacks.
Dave McDonald wants to know, who was the better worker between the Ultimate Warrior and Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake?
Oh my God. Beefcake all day long, twice on Sunday.
Aaron wants to know, was Randy Savage mad that Hulk Hogan's entrance was last, even though he was the champ?
That was done by design. And the funny part about it is, yes, he was.
If he had the belt, he'd go on last. I'd say, okay, but I'm the champion. Shouldn't he go first and I come last?
But it was done that way to create that friction, actually.
David wants to know, why the switch from Demolition being heels to baby faces? I felt they were way better as heels. We talked about this earlier, but did they prefer, like you hear about guys who prefer a certain style one way or another. Someone I'm friendly with on the main roster greatly prefers to be a heel, even if it means they make less money, because you make more money if you're, you got all the babyface merchandise, but they would prefer to be a heel just because they have more fun. Chat me
Demolition preferred to be a heel all the way because it was easier to work the matches and they loved being nasty heels.
Don't most people prefer to be heels? Just take the money aspect out of it. Just the actual, the act, the performance, the bell to bell, the promos, not the paychecks.
Absolutely. I love I don't know that I could be a babyface.
You're a heel in real life.
I know. Most people are. And it's so much easier and so much more fun to be a heel.
Hell of a clothesline there by the $1 Million Man on Hulk Hogan. I've always liked DiBiase's fist drop.
Yes. And that was something he used to do in Mid-South, and he'd load up his glove and shit, but it looks cool as hell, and it looks vicious. Oh, no. See, Hulkster's getting the Hulk up, man. And I've never understood why when Hulk tells you don't do it, why everybody does it. They're going to throw that right hand. You know he's going to block it. He's ready. And Hulkster giving Hercules the tag so that he can get to his former master.
What a weird sentence.
What?
Just a weird sentence. Justin wants to know, which 5 tag team elimination match do Bruce and Conrad prefer? This one or the one from 1987? So we did that one last year, available in our archives right now, but they did that same 10-man tag concept, or 10-man tag. So you had last year the Bulldogs, the Killer Bees, the Rougeaus, Strike Force, and the Young Stallions on one side. On the other, it was the Bolsheviks, Demolition, the Dream Team, which is Dino and Valentine, the Hart Foundation, and the Islanders. To me, this is not close. This year's was better.
All the way. I think this year's was much better. And so far, I mean, every single one of these matches, the match, inside is really, really good. And I thought that this year's tag team, to answer your question, was much better.
Darren wants to know, back in 88, 89, did anyone ever rib Arn or Tully?
Tully probably more so than Arn. I think that the guys would give Tully shots here and there and rib him a little bit, like either padlocking his bag or things like that. Most of the guys liked Arn.
I think everybody likes Arn. Dave wants to know, if Flair had signed in the summer of that year, how would he factored into this show? That is a excellent question from Dave Rosenbluth. We've talked about this before. SummerSlam 88, you make your big pay-per-view debut as Brother Love, and you had been teasing a big act, and it may have been, a mainstream name who had been involved in some scandals, or it may have been the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And it felt like maybe you had Flair coming over, and of course it wouldn't be long, and JJ would be over, Barry Windham with the Widowmaker gimmick, and Arn and Tully are already there. Hypothetically, had that happened and Flair made the jump and made the debut at SummerSlam, where would he have fit on this Survivor Series 88 card?
I don't know if he would have fit in Survivor Series, but I think that he would have probably been kept boiling underneath to go right after WrestleMania with Hogan in the championship. That's what I think I would have done and what I would have suggested. But Vince never really looked at laying it that far out. Some guys he did, some guys he didn't. But with Rick, it was always on and off, on and off, on and off. So he wasn't ready to commit to an idea until he had the talent ready to commit to come in. But that's a great question. And for me, I would have kept him in the mix and use him very sparingly until after WrestleMania. And I would have given him a high profile match at WrestleMania, but kept the Hogan Savage and then had him go off with Hogan afterwards.
I'm really working over Hogan here, giving him the business.
God damn, you are, man. That's Hulk Hogan that you're hitting with those big hammers.
Yeah.
But as you can see with the head down, he is bald, folks.
That's hurtful.
He being Hogan. He is. He knows it. It's not a secret.
Rumor and innuendo is that One Man Gang likes to show up to these convention style events, and rumor and innuendo is that he's going to be at WrestleCade this weekend.
Is he going to be signing with me?
Well, I mean, I think Slick's going to be there too. I feel like we should do like the old twin gimmick where we just mime each other, right?
I like it. You need to bring your dashiki.
He's taller. No, he's doing the 1-man gang deal there. So, and I'm not shaving my head.
And you wouldn't shave your head and put like the skull tattoos?
For the purposes of this weekend, no.
Oh, hell.
No.
So there's a chance you'd do it.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm not scared of shaving my head. That's no big deal.
Well, what about the skull tattoos?
I'm not going to actually get a tattoo on my head, but would I put a sticker up there that, yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
But
You'd look good bald. See, I wouldn't look good bald.
I rocked a flat top for a long time. I had the big boss man haircut, elbow, rake of the eyes. I love the old Hogan stuff because it's so, there's a Hulk Hogan formula, just like you said earlier. You shake your head, you point your finger, then you wag it, and then you block it, and then 1 punch, 2 punch, 3 punch into the ropes, big boot into the ropes, leg drop, 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Well,
and it worked.
It's sort of the same thing with like everything else he does. If he hits anything the third time, he's in control. But if you cut him off after 2, he's dead.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the trick, man. You got to cut him off after 1 or 2. Motherfucker. God, Boss Man was agile as shit, even for a big man back then. Getting his big ass up to the top and coming off like that. Shit. Now, if only Hulkster can make it to the corner. Please.
And he comes, Macho Man, like a house of fire, working over both of the Twin Towers, but Haku's in there too. Holy cow.
Yeah, the odds are not good for the Mega Powers. And, of course, Slick just tripping the Macho Man. Nailing him with a cane. It's odd that we would have 2 managers with canes. It's just wrong.
Gimmick infringement.
It really and truly is. Oh my, now Slick's all over Elizabeth. That's not going to set well with the Macho Man. And now he's trying to manhandle her. See, you couldn't even do this today. Just even touch a female and try and do anything like that. But the Hulkster comes to the rescue, by God. And you're right there to whoop his ass. Who the hell are they counting out?
Well, I mean, the legal man is, no, you're right.
Legal man's Boss Man, right?
Yes. I thought it was Haku because he was in the ring, but no, I think it's Boss Man and, Savage. And of course now our hero, Hulk Hogan, is handcuffed to the bottom rope on the heel side.
Oh, no.
So no, it was Haku and Macho Man. The ref was just counting for no fucking reason whatsoever.
Yeah. It's, I
guess he was trying to keep things orderly,
There you go. Or he may, I have no idea what's going on right now. If it was Hulk Hogan, I don't know why he doesn't just break those damn handcuffs. Snap them right in 2. Because Lord knows the great Khali can do that.
Dude.
What?
Boss Man here with the nightstick. Oh, I love this.
Yeah, so Hogan loved being handcuffed and being whipped with the nightstick. I don't know if he's still into that kind of stuff, but.
Well, there might be a videotape on it.
I doubt it. Savage is fighting his ass off. God damn, Randy was a working son of a bitch. He had so much fucking energy and would never stop. And now Haku over there getting him some on Hulk Hogan, whipping his ass. You know, the beautiful thing about it is if you could put a guy like the Red Rooster and or Haku with a manager like Bobby Heenan, and they are automatically accepted into the top spot in the main event because of their manager.
Right.
So it's, you know, Frenchie Martin, not so much. Well, now the Big Boss Man and Akeem have been disqualified from this matchup, and they've been sent to the back, leaving Haku alone to take on the Macho Man and a handcuffed Hulk Hogan. And look at that little baby face of the Big Boss Man. God, he had a baby face. So we settled this puppy down into a one-on-one match that everybody was waiting for. King Haku and the Macho Man. And Slick's got the key, taunting Hogan. You know you want it. You just a jive soul bro. A jive soul bro. And you never get nothing in the end. Oh, I love that song. Savage there trying to tag his partner. Nowhere to be found. A little gimmick infringement there with Haku. Using the patented $1 million elbow of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Now, you know Hogan's going to get that. He's going to get it soon. He's going to get him that key one way or another. But today, Braun Strowman would just break that shit. Yes or no?
Yeah, for sure.
And he'd take down the whole ring with him. Haku all over Savage, by God, the Mega Powers. They're not looking too goddamn mega right now, I'll tell you that. God, remove Randy. Thank goodness. Finally, the Slickster's down, and I believe that the key went flying. So no one knows where the hell the damn thing is right now. Pat Patterson at ringside, making sure that no harm comes to Elizabeth. And now Elizabeth digging in the pockets of the Slickster.
She's got the key now. She's going to unlock Hulk Hogan, and Savage, who's been taking a beating at the hands of Haku, is finally going to get a little relief. Hulk Hogan gets in there. He's going to get back to his spot.
Well, what a miraculous recovery that the Hulkster had right there just by getting unhandcuffed. Because a minute ago, he'd been having the shit beat out of him. It's a miracle.
Man, Haku with a hell of a splash there. I don't think I've seen Haku do a splash off the top rope before.
I think all those guys from the islands, they learned that from climbing the coconut trees and jumping from the coconut trees.
Okay, Jesse.
No, that they really do.
Shut up.
That's how Snuka did.
Oh my
That's where
God.
Snuka got the splash from.
So there you go. There's the big boot. You know what's coming now? Nope. It's a body slam and then the leg drop. You know what's coming.
1, 2, 3, baby. It's all over.
So he switched it up. He didn't just do boot and then the leg drop. He snuck a body slam in there.
Well, by God, he was in there with an extraordinary athlete in Haku. And now we got one more seed to be planted. Another seed from SummerSlam with Hulkster and Elizabeth and Randy. Let's see if they leave it all in. I
think that's what Macho was worried about, that Hogan was going to try to leave it all in.
Well, you know, Randy's trying to tell Liz to go to Hogan, go to Hogan. Hogan must pose. Look at him. Look at him.
So Savage is nearly dead in the corner, and Hogan doesn't care.
Look at him grabbing a free shot. Hogan picking up Elizabeth and twirling her around. That's bullshit.
What was that? Oh, brother? Why are you picking her up? Trying to grab a freebie, huh? Hey.
Yeah. Good stuff that we could use for an entire year, man. And no one knew.
Yeah, it is one of those Survivor Series 1998 moments where you sort of watch it all again and you see it the second time, maybe whatever you missed the first time. But hopefully you guys didn't miss a thing here today when we chopped up Survivor Series 1988. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And Bruce, I guess we should go ahead and give everybody a big surprise.
What surprise?
Well, it's Thursday night, which is our Thanksgiving Day tradition that we do a Survivor Series watch along. And last year, that meant there was no Something to Wrestle on Friday at noon. So people missed their Friday noon's main event.
But they got the special from Thanksgiving night.
But a lot of people enjoyed that, but then we're still looking forward to their regular routine, their regularly scheduled Friday noon main event.
So what are you trying to say? I mean, if it was up to me, I would say give them something free.
Tomorrow, Friday at noon, like always, there's going to be another Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard. And it wasn't advertised or promoted, but we're covering the 25th anniversary of Survivor Series 1993. Without question, as Tony Schiavone would say, one of the topics I've wanted to cover the longest. When you go back to the origin of you and I doing these podcasts, this was actually an episode we did as a practice episode. And that's not what you're going to hear tomorrow, but we are going to talk about that same topic. Survivor Series 1993. I'm looking forward to this, man.
Well, why don't we just release the one that we did as a practice? That would be uncut, uncensored, on nothing, and unremembered.
Well, because it wasn't very good.
Oh, so this one needs to be good.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You got it?
Then we'll do that.
So check it out, man. Tell your friends tomorrow, noon, like always, Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard right here.
Shaka.
I was waiting forever for that. Thank you.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson here to tell you a little more about what adfreeshows.com is all about. Get early, ad-free access to more than a dozen of your favorite wrestling podcasts every single week, starting at just $9. That's less than 20 cents an episode each month. And yes, you can listen to them all directly through Apple Podcasts or your regular podcast apps. How easy is that? Ad-free shows also has thousands of hours worth of bonus content and docuseries like Title Chase, Eric Fires Back, Conversations with Conrad, and The Insiders. Plus new series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbags with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, and a whole lot more. And you want to talk about early? You can't get any earlier than listening to the shows live. You can be a part of the live studio audience as we record the podcast. Plus ride shotgun alongside your favorite childhood heroes for live watch-alongs, Q&As, and other interactive experiences every single month. Come on now, see for yourself what thousands of other wrestling fans from around the world have discovered, that adfreeshows.com is the best value in wrestling. Check it out today, and hey, when you do, the first week is completely free. adfreeshows.com.